What's up, guys? I'm Cody Kropp. This is Kian and Carson Kropp, and this is Last Stop Sports Talk. Today, we're going to be diving into the 2025 NFL free agency review. So, we're going to get right into it because we got a lot to talk about. So, we're going to start off with the AFC North. We're going to go to the Baltimore Ravens first. They signed wide receiver DeAndre Hopkins. They also re-signed Patrick Ricard, fullback. And they also re-signed offensive tackle Ronnie Stanley to a 3-year, $60 million contract with $44 million guaranteed.
Yeah, this is the biggest move that we all wanted the Ravens to make when we talked about what's next for the AFC North. And it's just great to see that they got it done because, like we said before, this is really the only thing that was on the agenda for them because they have all the pieces to win it. They just need to put it all together, bring back Ronnie Stanley, and make it happen.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I think Patrick Ricard's a low-key great guy to get back for
the
relatively cheap money.
300-pound fullback.
Yeah, but he works. I mean, the combo of him, Derrick Henry, and Lamar Jackson is incredible.
And this run-first offense, he is exactly what they need. He can move like crazy for a 300-pounder. And then DeAndre Hopkins, I'll read the contract real quick. We're not going to read the contracts on all the guys, just the big-name ones, where all the money's going. We're going to read those contracts. But even DeAndre Hopkins, he was signed for a 1-year, $5 million contract. The value of DeAndre Hopkins has gone down like crazy. I mean, I guess being a Baltimore Ravens old wide receiver does kill your stock. Basically, you go to the Titans or the Ravens if you want your career to die.
He was at both.
Yeah, he was at both.
Career's over.
Moving on to the Cincinnati Bengals, they signed running back Samaje Perine, and they franchise tag T. Higgins, wide receiver, for the second straight year, which will be his last available tag, and that'll pay T. Higgins $26.2 million for 2025. And the Bengals said they intend to work with the sixth-year pro toward a long-term deal this offseason. So hopefully that works out for him. And they also re-signed tight end Mike Gesicki on a 3-year deal worth $25.5 million with up to $12 million in year one up front. They also re-signed tight end Tanner Hudson, and they re-signed defensive lineman B.J. Hill, and they signed defensive lineman T.J. Slayton, and they also signed linebacker Oren Burks.
By the time you guys are seeing this video, Jamar Chase and T. Higgins may have contracts because there's talks that they've heated up a lot and they're really moving well, and the contract could come in the next coming days here. But T. Higgins receiving the franchise tag sucks for him because he has injury problems and he needs a contract to protect himself. But for the franchise, I think this is a pretty good deal for him. Just get one more year out of him and keep talking with him. You saw what he could do when he's there. He was being treated like the one, peppered with targets. With him and Jamar Chase both on the field, it's impossible for the team to focus on both and stop both. So,
yeah, definitely.
Yeah, Mike Gesicki is a name that I'll mention because that's pretty darn good money for Mike Gesicki, a guy who's never exactly completely figured it out in his career whenever he was in Miami or on the Patriots for that little stint too. Yeah. But now he figured it out on the Bengals, and whenever Joe Burrow's been talking over this offseason, he's mentioned how the guys that he wants to keep around, the core of the team, and he mentioned Mike Gesicki in there. So it is significant that they re-signed him to pretty good money because Joe Burrow likes having him there.
Yeah, exactly. And those few defensive line signings and linebacker signings are just good little ways to help shore up that defense that struggled down the line, down the road of last season. But I guess the one thing for them, I'm a little curious why they haven't added any offensive tackles yet. Maybe they're looking straight to the draft, but that must be where they're concentrated at.
Also with Mike Gesicki, when I saw they re-signed him to this big of a deal, I was thinking that they might go to Eric All for their go-to tight end because when he was healthy this season, he was getting 5 targets a game. So I thought maybe they'd transition to him, but probably because Burrow does like Mike Gesicki so much, they re-signed him.
Yeah. Moving to the Cleveland Browns, they acquired in a trade quarterback Kenny Pickett, and they also signed edge Myles Garrett to a 4-year extension that includes $123 million guaranteed and has an average per-year salary of $40 million. The deal, which ties Garrett to the Browns for the next 6 years, also includes no trade clause, and that's per Tom Pelissero and Ian Rappaport. They also signed edge Tyron Shoyinka, and they also signed defensive lineman Malik Collins. They also signed linebacker Devin Bush.
This Kenny Pickett trade for the Browns is great for both teams. The Browns have given DTR way too many chances, and he's shown way too many times that he's not the answer. So it's about time that they get rid of him and stop giving him chances. Bring in a fresh face in Kenny Pickett.
A Super Bowl champion.
That's right.
Pickett, yeah.
And as for the Eagles, Dorian Thompson-Robinson's going to fit the Eagles' play style so much better with them catering to the run with Jalen Hurts and utilizing his rushing ability compared to Kenny Pickett. So if DTR can figure it out, it's going to be on the Eagles where they kind of try to hide the quarterback weakness on the offense, and then they get a fifth-round pick out of it as well. So that's really exciting for the Eagles, and the Browns I think they just want a quarterback that has an opportunity to start over Deshaun Watson to give the fans something else to look at.
Yeah, go ahead, Cody. Talk about Myles Garrett. I want to know how you guys feel about that.
Myles Garrett, this is big money, and he deserves it. He's been up there. He's been loyal to the team, and I guess money talks, even though he was saying he ain't going back there, he ain't discussing, he ain't doing nothing. But at least Cleveland keeps somehow finding magic money somewhere. I don't know where they find all this money at, if they're just kicking the can down the road. But anyways, Myles Garrett, he's been great. He was the Defensive Player of the Year whenever, and I think he deserves all this money. He's one of the best in the league that's been doing it for years on end, consistently. And I think this is this kind of deal is also kind of I think like a Cleveland tax too, is why he's getting so much money. You got to pay to play in some of these places. Like San Fran's not going to give you as much because it's nicer out there, and that team is more. But good for Myles Garrett, and I guess that's.
Yeah, I love all the memes that came from this, though.
Pretty good internet.
Yeah, it's pretty funny because it was like, what changed so fast? Because you just said you were all pissed off. It's like, there's no way I'm signing here. You guys are not even close to winning the Super Bowl. It's like, well, how about we give you $40 million a year? It's like, I'm sold. Done.
It'd be hard to say no to that.
Should have started with that.
Yeah.
One other guy that I'll touch on, Devin Bush. He never really was a star on the Steelers whenever he was drafted in the first round. Crazy to look back on that. It makes you cringe a little bit.
A lot of it. Yeah.
But he's pretty solid on the Browns because he doesn't have to be the linebacker one because they got Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah there, JOK. So he's been pretty solid there. So a 1 year, $3.25 million deal for a cheap linebacker too is not bad at all.
Yeah, agreed. Moving to the Pittsburgh Steelers, they signed back quarterback Mason Rudolph. They signed running back Kenneth Gainwell and acquired in a trade from the Seahawks in exchange for a 2025 second-round pick, which is pick number 52, and a late-round pick swap. They signed wide receiver DK Metcalf, and Metcalf is signing a 4-year, $132 million extension with Pittsburgh, per Tom Pelissero and Ian Rappaport. They also are re-signing wide receiver Ben Skowronek.
Oh, yeah.
They signed tight end Donald Parham Jr., They also signed cornerback Brandon Echols, and they also signed corner Darius Slay to a 1-year, $10 million deal that's fully guaranteed. That's also per Tom Pelissero and Ian Rappaport.
I like quite a bit of these signings, but believe it or not, my favorite one I think is Mason Rudolph.
What?
Yes. 2 years, $8 million, $4 million a year
cheap,
for a quarterback that is serviceable. That makes me happy. He showed last year on the Titans that he can make something happen. He's coming back to the Steelers, doesn't know the playbook, but you don't really have to do much in these Arthur Smith offenses. He's got great receivers around him now. I don't think it's the Steelers' plan to start him, but he's definitely a great backup quarterback to have in your quarterback room because, like I said, he can do enough to make the team relevant, get the team above 500. Like, it's the Steelers' way. So I hope we bring in someone else, but I really do love this signing for a backup quarterback.
And, I think I tend to agree with you. I mean, he knows, that's fairly cheap. That's cheap money for a guy that can play as long as he's not afraid to sling it. Because now that we have a DK Metcalf and George Pickens, both down the field receivers, you got to have a quarterback that's going to sling it. But I really love this Darius Slay signing. That's huge for me to get a veteran in that corner room that's kind of been struggling here or there because they've got young guys. I mean, they got JPJ on the outside. They've got the whole mix of everybody else.
Like Bishop.
Beanie Bishop. And
Dante Jackson was okay at best.
Yeah, decent, but everyone's young. So if we can get they got this veteran voice in the room now, and he's still playing high-level football. This isn't the same Patrick Peterson signing, in my opinion. This is Darius Slay, Super Bowl champion.
So I guess I'll talk about DK Metcalf. I've got a friend at work who asked me, he's like, so what do you think about the DK Metcalf signing? Because he said he's a Steelers fan as well, like you guys. He said he was kind of coming around to it, like $30 million a year is around where it came out to be. He's like, I'm kind of coming around to it. Because then he asked me, because I didn't say anything yet, and then he asked me, he's like, so I see that Jamar Chase is probably going to get like $40 million a year. He's like, would you rather pay Jamar Chase $40 million or DK Metcalf $30 million? I'm like, hell yes! Jamar Chase! Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Like, Jamar Chase is arguably, or he is a top 3 receiver in the league. DK Metcalf, I don't even think he'd be in my top 20. Like, there are things that DK Metcalf can do, and they are the exact same things that George Pickens can do. We saw this. I mean, Mike Williams was traded for at the end of last season. Obviously, he's not as good as DK Metcalf. Their ages are different. Their athleticism is completely different. Yeah. But he is also like a George Pickens older guy. So that didn't work. Now, obviously, I know that Mike Williams is not as good as DK Metcalf. But still, I don't like the idea. I like a diverse receiving room. And if you bring in the same guy, basically, because DK Metcalf, he runs slants and take him to the house, or he just runs deep. You're not going to see this guy run any other routes, and that's also what they have George Pickens do. So like maybe they try to diversify him. Maybe this means that George Pickens is going to have a bigger route tree, which I kind of hope for. Like I want to see George Pickens run more routes because we know what DK Metcalf can do. I just think it's kind of expensive for DK Metcalf, but like I don't want to fault it too much because I like that Omar Khan takes swings. He actually takes swings. He's trying to do stuff. Bring in Darius Slay. Bring in DK Metcalf. Kenny Gainwell. He's a solid number 2 running back. I like that he's doing this. So I guess I can't hate on it too much. I'm kind of skeptical as to how much DK Metcalf is going to change this offense. Because obviously everybody in Pittsburgh wants change in this offense. They've wanted change since Ben Roethlisberger left because it hasn't been good since Ben Roethlisberger left.
Definitely not.
So
love you, Ben.
So hope that this brings change, but I don't really see right now how it does.
Yeah, I do agree with you. As a fan, I like that we're trying to do something.
Yeah.
Bring in a star wide receiver that, I mean, we haven't had, I know that they're kind of the same guy, but we haven't had a stud wide receiver combo like this
since like Emmanuel Sanders and
Hines
Antonio
Ward
Brown.
And Antonio Brown. Like it's been a while. So I like that we're trying, and there's a lot of, I don't know if the Steelers are thinking there's lots of talent in the slot receiver role in the draft. I don't know if we're looking that way.
They probably believe in Roman Wilson too. I mean, he was injured all last year, so we really haven't seen like anything that he can do. So maybe he can get healthy and prove to be serviceable in there. Calvin Austin.
I hope they believe in Calvin Austin because down the stretch he shows some promise.
He did.
He's reliable.
One of my favorite things about free agency is the foreplay that it gives for the NFL draft. Like it shows which way teams are probably going to lean. Like this tells me that the Steelers are not going to use their first-round pick on a wide receiver like they were mocked to so often. So now I wonder if they're going to go offensive line to try to rebuild after they lost some to signings, if they're going to go linebacker and try to solidify that.
Omari and Hampton.
Yeah, it's just exciting to see what could happen now because we've taken care of the wide receiver position, well, talent-wise.
Yeah.
So we've already spent too many of our assets on wide receiver to spend a first-round pick on that as well.
Yep.
I'm really scared. We'll get into this whenever we start doing mock draft episodes here in a few weeks, but I'm really scared for the Steelers that they might be looking at Shedeur Sanders at number 21 overall and think, he's still here. And worked out pretty well last time we drafted a quarterback in the 20s.
Well, I mean, if we have DK Metcalf and George Pickens, I hate Shedeur Sanders. Well, I wouldn't say I dislike Shedeur Sanders, but
he's a slinger, though.
I think you could sling it to him.
Not afraid to throw it.
If there's any like receivers in the NFL that would match what Shedeur Sanders does do, it is these two receivers.
Yep.
Yeah.
Go long, and I'll chuck it deep to you. You guys can win the jump balls.
Yeah.
Yep. All right, let's move into the AFC East. So let's start off with the Buffalo Bills. The Bills have agreed to terms on a new 6-year deal worth $330 million with $250 million guaranteed with quarterback Josh Allen. Big money up in Buffalo.
Oh, yeah.
They also re-signed running back Ty Johnson, and they signed wide receiver Josh Palmer to a 3-year, $36 million contract with $18 million guaranteed. And they also signed wide receiver Khalil Shakir.
Yeah, we talked about that.
Yeah, we talked about that one. And they also signed Joey Bosa, edge, to a 1-year, $12.6 million deal with $12 million guaranteed and a max value of $15.6 million. They also signed edge Michael Hoyt They also signed edge Greg Rousseau to a 4-year, $80 million extension that includes $54 million at signing. They also signed defensive tackle Larry Ogunjobi. They signed linebacker Terrell Bernard to a 4-year extension worth $50 million, including $25.2 million guaranteed. And then they signed safety Derek Forrest and safety Damar Hamlin. Man, lots of money being slung around up in Buffalo.
Yeah.
The Bills, man. The Bills and their mid-wide receivers.
They lost
Josh Palmer, $12 million a year. Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
I mean, they've tried Amari Cooper. They have tried lots of things. I will give them that. Mac Hollins, but I don't know why they're just committing to mediocrity with Josh Allen's weapons. Why not get him a real threat? Not Khalil Shakir, Josh Palmer. Dalton Kincaid did show some promise, but we need a star in here to pair up with Josh Allen. We saw what Josh Allen can do with Stephon Diggs. It elevated him to another level, and he hasn't had any weapon like that since then. He just has to rely on some checkdowns that are going to do something for him, and Josh Palmer is not the answer. Why are we giving him so much money? What did he do to deserve this? He showed in L.A. that he can be outplayed by rookie Ladd McConkey, second-year Quentin Dropson.
Yeah.
yeah.
What did he do to earn this money?
Will Disley got way more targets than Josh Palmer.
Yeah, if Hayden Hurst was healthy, he would have got more. Stone Smart did more than Josh Palmer. This guy is like the definition of a mid-receiver.
Yeah.
Yep.
He doesn't do anything spectacular. He just does his job and nothing more. He's a 9-to-5 wide receiver.
Yeah.
He's never going to work overtime. Never going to ask for any time off or anything. He's going to come into the work, but he's just going to sit at his desk job, not talk to anybody, and get the job done. What the hell?
Go ahead.
I mean, I'm kind of a Bills fan a little bit, and this pisses me off. I can't even imagine how my folks up in Buffalo are feeling right now. It's crazy. I mean, we think we're mad about DK Metcalf.
Yeah.
At least we didn't sign Josh Palmer.
DK Metcalf might work some overtime and get into fights with the safety people at work.
Yeah, that's true.
Josh Palmer's just got to put on his reading glasses and sit at his computer all day. Come on. Unbelievable.
Oh, my Lanta. Oh, okay. Well, I mean, you can see where the Buffalo Bills are more focused, aside from that Josh Palmer signing all the defensive weapons that they got here. But I got to mention my guy Josh Allen agreeing on this new 6-year deal with all the money. All the money guaranteed. I think, is this now the most guaranteed money, I think, in the NFL?
55. It's 55
I guess most total money.
It's tied
guaranteed.
with those top guys.
Biggest contract.
Yeah, because he was asked in a press conference or just an interview that he's like, "Are you like mad that you didn't get the $60 million a year?"
Yeah, that Dak did.
Josh Allen, just good guy that he is. He's like, dude, what am I gonna do with the $5 million, like an extra $5 million? I can do everything in my life that I want right now. Like, I just want to take less money if I have to and make it better for my team.
Yeah, he's a farm kid from Wyoming. He doesn't need money.
No, doesn't need money. I mean, property's expensive.
That's true.
Buy some farm property, but
no, good for Josh Allen. I love to see it. The Bills they know that they got their guy and just lock him up for even longer.
I love what they're doing on defense. Obviously, the offense was great last year because they have, Josh Allen. Yeah. But the defense is what kind of gave them some problems. And they've basically always had a problem at edge rusher. AJ Epinesa has never worked out properly. Basically, the only edge rusher that they've had that's worked has been Greg Rousseau. So I like that they gave him this extension for $20 million a year. And, I mean, I'm not a Joey Bosa guy. Obviously, everybody and their mother knows that his brother Nick is the better one, the younger one. But, like, you're not going to get Nick Bosa. So, heck, go out and sign a Bosa.
Yeah, might as well.
Joey Bosa, pretty cheap for him, too. $12.6 million for 1 year for a kind of prove-it deal for Joey Bosa. And then bringing in Michael Hoyt from the Rams, too, is pretty solid just to kind of try to get some new faces in the room to try to generate some kind of pass rush. I think is going to look great for the Bills. They're hoping, at least.
I want to know what you guys think of this. I saw Joey Bosa got offered $10 million a year to go play in San Fran with his brother, but he turned it down for an extra $2.5 million to go play in Buffalo. Could win a Super Bowl in both places, probably more likely in Buffalo. Yeah. But do you think that just what do you think about that? Him having an opportunity to go play with his brother and not?
He might want to just keep himself separate, separate career and not like possibly live in the shadow.
I was gonna say it could be an ego thing.
Yeah, it could be. Yeah.
I guess it's easier to see that you're worse than your brother if you're on the same team.
Yeah.
So that's a good point.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of what I think so too.
Let's move into the Miami Dolphins. They signed quarterback Zach Wilson. They signed running back Alexander Mattison. They signed wide receiver Nick Westbrook-Akine. They also signed offensive guard James Daniels and offensive guard Liam Eichenberg. And then they re-signed linebacker Tyrell Dodson. They signed cornerback Ifeatu Melifonwu.
Nice.
And then they signed safety Ashton Davis. And, that's all that the Miami Dolphins have done.
I would like to talk about my favorite signing here, but I don't have one.
Yeah,
so,
that's a really good point.
Instead, I'll just talk about Zach Wilson. Tua has injury history, as everybody knows.
Yep.
And I think with all these weapons around him, Zach Wilson, if he learns the system.
Oh, boy, we've heard this one before.
Tua goes down.
Oh, no.
I think Zach Wilson could provide an actual spark to this offense.
Do we think Miami Dolphins fans think that? Well, they are coming from like Skylar Thompson.
That's true, but they also got spoiled with Mike White.
They did, yeah.
The problem with Zach Wilson is that in a Shanahan offense, the throws are easier, right? It's easier for the quarterback. The thing that Zach Wilson always did horribly in New York was the easy throws.
That's true.
I mean, he can somehow every once in a while chuck it deep and like hit a guy perfectly in stride. There was one game.
His pro day, remember?
He's the one who started that, that run to your left and throw. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
But anyways, Zach Wilson is not good at easy throws, but I can definitely see. I think that he does have potential because he does have an arm on him.
Mm-hmm.
I'd love to see him in a stabler environment like Miami here, where he does work out. So I think it's definitely possible. I'll talk about Alexander Mattison because he's a running back who doesn't have any speed, so I was confused by that signing. Basically, that's all I have to say about that. But I actually want to talk about Nick Westbrook-Akine.
Yeah.
Touchdown machine from last year. He had 8 weeks in a row where he had a touchdown. I think that he adds a good depth piece to this wide receiver room. Not that they really need him because obviously they worked it out with Tyreek, I guess. He's happy again.
Mm-hmm.
Jalen Waddle, who knows if he's going to be healthy for more than 12 games.
Yeah, true.
And then our guy, Malik Washington,
Oh, yeah.
he should hopefully have a nice little breakout year, be a full-time starter in the slot. Braxton Berrios is gone. But Nick Westbrook-Akine, for the games that Jalen Waddle is not out there, I think Nick Westbrook-Akine is going to be he's going to do nothing else but besides catch touchdowns.
I hope so for the Dolphins.
Yeah. And then these offensive guard signings, I think, they aren't super flashy signings by any means, but they're just. It's nice just to see them helping to shore up that O-line for a few more years. They'll keep Tua upright to help him avoid injury as much as possible with James Daniels and Liam Eichenberg.
Mm-hmm.
Let's move into the New England Patriots. The New England Patriots, they signed quarterback Josh Dobbs and wide receiver Mac Hollins, and they also signed offensive tackle Morgan Moses to a 3-year, $24 million deal worth up to $28.5 million per Mike Garafolo. They also signed edge Clavon Chason, and they also signed edge Harold Landry to a 3-year, $43.5 million deal with $26 million fully guaranteed and a max value of $48 million per Tom Pelissero. They signed defensive lineman Milton Williams to a 4-year, $104 million deal with $51 million fully guaranteed at signing, including a $24 million signing bonus per Tom Pelissero, Ian Rappaport, and Mike Garafolo. Then they also signed our guy, linebacker Robert Spillane, to a 3-year, $33 million deal with $20.6 million guaranteed. And they also signed corner Carlton Davis to a 3-year, $60 million deal with $34.5 million guaranteed per Tom Pelissero. And then they signed safety Marcus Epps.
This defense is getting built.
Patriots way.
Yeah, I'm still wondering what they're going to do about weapons for Drake May, but all-around defense is getting built. Milton Williams getting $26 million a year. That's insane. I didn't even think he was that powerful, I guess.
Super Bowl.
Recency bias.
Recency bias.
Yeah, that seems like it's happening with everybody. Darius Slay got more because of the Super Bowl. Milton Williams is getting paid because of the Super Bowl. I feel like you could get a better defensive lineman with $26 million a year than Milton Williams, but to each their own.
New England tax.
What do you guys think? Do you think he's worth that or no?
No.
In New England, maybe. To New England who has money to spend.
Yeah.
Probably.
I just think that he's always helped out. Obviously, Jalen Carter was there. Jordan Davis was there. He was never, ever the defensive tackle 1 or 2. Yeah. So I guess, teams were just focused, opposing offensive lines were focused on guarding other guys along that great Philadelphia Eagles defensive line. So, yeah, I'm also kind of skeptical about this. But, yeah, Cody said it. The New England tax, I mean, if you're going to be a bad team and he sees all that, like, it's not like the salary cap, or it's not like your team's cap space is private by any means. So, like, he sees all that money. He's like, hey, it's like whenever you're on the street and some guy's trying to sell you his mixtape. And he's like, just give me $1 or something for it. It's a donation. And you're like kind of sketched out. And you're like, whip out your wallet. And he's like, I see those 20s in there. He's like, come on, guys, let's go.
Yeah. I kind of teased it earlier. I mentioned two here real quick. For one, Robert Spillane
your guy
fits this New England defense well, the way they have played for years. And with Mike Vrabel now at the helm, the way he likes to coach and play and all his players, this fits the bill, fits every box. And for a 3-year, $33 million deal, that's good for him. I'm glad he got that type of money. But then also to bring in quarterback Josh Dobbs to a 2-year, $8 million deal, I think that's another very formidable backup in the NFL. I mean, he's proven it a lot of places he went, but like he can learn and be a serviceable backup by any means. So I think that's a kind of a low-key little – he's a vet at this point. He can kind of work there alongside Drake May, and I think it'll work out well.
I miss watching the Pastronaut play football at the NFL level. He was fun to watch.
Yeah.
I'll talk about Morgan Moses coming over from the Jets. He is not a young buck by any means. I'm really surprised they gave him a 3-year, $24 million deal because I don't think he's going to play the extent of this contract. But like you said, I mean, New England tax. And I feel that way about Harold Landry, too. He was never great. Never great on the Titans. He was always just kind of there. He put up stats. He got a lot of tackles, better in run support than he is a pass rusher. I feel like some of these moves are just kind of trying to get them back toward average, which would be a good step for this New England Patriots team, which is how I feel about Milton Williams, too. I don't think he's a difference maker by any means, but you got to bring in faces because what didn't work last year, you don't want to run back out there. So I think that these are all pretty solid signings for a lot of money. Yeah, they kind of have to do that, but like in order to get the team creeping back toward average, I think that they're doing some of the right things. Might as well spend that money.
Yeah, another team that's trying. So I'd probably be happy as a Patriots fan with what they're trying to do here. Moving to the New York Jets, they signed quarterback Justin Fields to a 2-year, $40 million deal with $30 million fully guaranteed, including a $15 million signing bonus and $5 million base salary in 2025, and that's per Tom Pelissero and Ian Rappaport. They also signed offensive tackle Chukwuma Okorafor. They also signed center Josh Myers, and they re-signed linebacker Jamian Sherwood to a 3-year, $45 million deal with $30 million guaranteed per Ian Rappaport. Then they signed corner Brandon Stevens to a 3-year, $36 million contract with $23 million guaranteed per Mike Garafolo. Then they signed safety Andre Sisco.
Man, I feel bad for Garrett Wilson. The quarterbacks he's had to play with in his career and the stats he's put up.
It's rough.
He's Hall of Fame relevant just because of these quarterbacks.
Yeah.
But I do think Justin Fields is going to be good for this offense. They showed last year that they want to run the ball a lot with Breece Hall, Isaiah Davis when he's there, Braylon Allen. Really, any running back that's in there, they want to enforce the run. I think Justin Fields is going to provide another threat to the run game. And I think that he's going to unlock this offense in a way that Aaron Rodgers couldn't.
You mean like being able to move?
Yes, exactly. Yeah, being able to move. And the defense, if they can build their defense again, then it seems like these teams with good defenses love to run the ball. It's just playing hard-nosed football, and I think Justin Fields is going to be perfect for that. Last year on the Steelers, he showed that he can be good. He protected the ball. He moved the chains when he had to, used his legs, was making smart decisions. So I think this is a great signing for the Jets. They need a quarterback. They have the weapons around him, and I think he's going to succeed here.
Yeah, I think this is a good start, what they're doing on defense to help add to those guys that they have there. Like I like the stud corner signings. So bringing Brandon Stevens to a 3-year contract, I think that'll be a good kind of almost veteran piece at this point to help out on that defensive side.
I love that they brought back Jamian Sherwood. This guy, he took over for C.J. Mosley last year, and everybody's like, C.J. Mosley's been the mainstay here, the tackle machine. Well, Jamian Sherwood came in and at like 6-7 years younger, did it just like C.J. Mosley did, stepped in and just played really, really well. So he definitely earned this $15 million a year that he's getting here. I thought that he would have been like a pretty hot commodity on the linebacker market, and he is getting pretty good money here, obviously, because he is so young still, and he kind of broke out at such a young age whenever they really needed him to. Whenever he was basically one of the only ones on this defense last year who was doing something correct. So I really love that signing. And just to go back to Justin Fields, it is crazy to me how little money he signed for. $20 million a year. That's pretty solid. I thought he was going to be asking like 30 or something, because like basically he wanted to capitalize on what he did on the Steelers last year, and like, hey, I can be a starter in this league, and he said that he wanted to go somewhere where he would be the starter. So as of right now, he is, until Jordan Travis gets his legs up.
Yeah.
No, I'm just kidding. But that's really cheap for Justin Fields. I really like what the Jets did here.
Yeah, a lot of good signings. It makes sense. Moving into the AFC South, we're going to start with the Houston Texans. They signed 3 wide receivers. Well, they signed 2 and acquired 1 in a trade. They signed wide receiver Braxton Berrios, and then they acquired in a trade wide receiver Christian Kirk, and then they signed wide receiver Justin Watson. And they also acquired in a trade offensive guard Ed Ingram, and then they agreed to a 1-year deal with offensive guard Laken Tomlinson. Then they signed edge Derek Barnett and edge Darrell Taylor. Then they also signed defensive lineman Sheldon Rankins, and they also acquired in a trade safety CJ Gardner-Johnson.
Yeah. My next step for the Texans in our What's Next for the AFC South episode was to re-sign Stephon Diggs. They didn't quite do that.
Not quite.
But I think Christian Kirk is going to be great as well. He plays this similar role Stephon Diggs does. He's going to work underneath, hopefully be a touchdown monster for him, and I think this is a great acquisition by the Texans. Got him very cheap because they were the report said that he was going to get cut, and then it's like actually they traded a 7th-round pick for him. So I think that was just the Texans wanting to ensure that they got him. And then also just talk about C.J. Gardner-Johnson a little bit, I guess, just because I love this signing so much. Yeah. The Texans needed safeties, needed a secondary. And what a better way to do it than C.J. Gardner-Johnson to play under DeMeco Ryans. Hard-hitting football. That is CJGJ.
Yep. Great. I like to see that the Texans are bringing in and signing some offensive linemen because C.J. Stroud got killed last year. Like, he might have had the most sacks in the league. Like, I don't know the stat for sure off the top of my head.
No, it was Caleb Williams.
Oh,
he was second.
But anyway, C.J. was getting clobbered all year long. So I like to see them trying to bring in some offensive guards and then hopefully acquire some in the draft coming up too.
Yeah, I also am a big fan. I just love what the Texans are doing overall. I know that there's no super big flashy names. They're not chucking a bunch of money around. They didn't have a bunch of money to spend.
Right.
But I think that the Texans front office is just so smart. I mean, they saw
Nick Caserio is a genius.
Yeah. They saw that Christian Kirk was going to get cut, but they ran over there, called him up like, hey, wait. We'll give you a 7th-round pick for him so he doesn't have to talk to any other teams.
Yeah.
Like, so we don't get in a big battle of negotiating. So that was just super smart by them. Did that same thing with CJGJ.
Yeah.
I just think that the Texans, and they just did it last offseason too, to bring in Joe Mixon.
Yeah.
They brought in Joe Mixon super cheap, traded for him. I think that the Texans are just super, super smart overall. So I don't really have a favorite move overall. I just think that the Texans are doing really well, and I'm excited to see how they draft because they kind of need a good draft after last year because I don't think the Colts are coming based on this first signing we're going to mention here.
Yeah, so teasing that, let's move into the Indianapolis Colts. They signed quarterback Daniel Jones to a 1-year, $14 million deal with $13.15 million fully guaranteed. So he'll be in that quarterback competition that they were talking about with AR.
Man, I love the memes. The 2 swinging toilets.
Yeah. That was the best. Yeah. Okay, and then they signed running back Khalil Herbert. And they also signed cornerback Charvarius Ward to a 3-year deal worth up to $60 million with $35 million guaranteed, including a $20 million signing bonus per Tom Pelissero, Mike Garafolo, and Ian Rappaport. Then they also signed safety Cameron Bynum to a 4-year, $60 million contract with $30 million guaranteed.
I love this Cam Bynum signing.
I was going to say, you're a Cam Bynum guy.
I am, and I love this signing. I mean, you got the Hammer and Nick Cross.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Now you got...
Smaller Hammer?
Yeah, kind of do it all.
I was going to say Thunder and Lightning. You got the Thunder.
Yeah.
And Nick Cross. You got the Lightning. You can't find them now. Yeah. And right down the middle, you got Zaire Franklin. This defense is going to be tackling monsters. They were last year. Now they got Cam Bynum to kind of play center field out there, make plays while the other guys are ensuring the tackling. Jalen Jones was a tackling monster last year. Kenny Moore is a playmaker.
You hope that Leatu Latu gets better. He has to.
He hopes that DeForest Buckner is a big name there.
Yeah.
Grover
His defense
Stewart
is so good.
It's so good. How are they so bad last year?
Their offense sucks.
Samson Ebukam was injured all last year. He's going to be back.
It feels so much like, I don't know, you remember the end of 2023, how the Eagles just shat the bed. Mm-hmm. But you look up and down their roster, it's like, man, this is so good. Obviously, the Colts aren't at that level, but the defense is like, wow.
Yeah, no, this has me all fired up. I'm ready to go now.
Yeah, I mean this defense just gets better. They know what they're doing on that side. But I'll mention that little Khalil Herbert signing to a 1-year deal because I'm a Khalil Herbert fan. Anywhere he's gone, he's had pretty decent production when given the chance. So I think he'll be a good guy to spot JT.
Yeah, he's an efficient runner for sure.
Yeah, I agree. The last 4 weeks of the season last year, I think JT was averaging 26 or 27 rushing attempts per game, which is insane for a guy that you value as a cornerstone piece of your roster. You don't treat him like that. You should try to preserve him. I think Khalil Herbert's going to help that.
Yeah, the Daniel Jones signing, I'll just mention it real quick, makes me feel pretty good about AR because they said they bring in competition, and I'm not exactly super scared of Daniel Jones. I'm more scared of AR blowing this thing up himself.
I'm more scared of this contract. $14 million? Are you kidding me?
It's for almost Justin Fields money.
Yeah, for why?
Just the chance that he could possibly be the starter for a few weeks, and then before they completely tear up the QB room. If AR shits the bed, and then they bring in Daniel Jones, it's just kind of like, Daniel, just get us through the rest of the season.
Yeah.
Can't watch AR anymore. I'll mainly talk about Charvarius Ward. Kind of sad why he had to leave San Francisco. It wasn't bad terms or anything, but his daughter had passed away in San Francisco, and it was like a very... From all the reports that I've heard, it was like a very heartfelt, he couldn't live in San Francisco anymore. He needed to get out of there.
Yeah.
And he's still a very good corner, still a very good CB1 on a team. He comes in here to work alongside Kenny Moore and all those young bucks that they have there on the Indianapolis Colts. I think that, man, I'm so excited for this defense. Honestly, brought in a new defensive coordinator, and just the names that they have are just, the potential is sky high.
Yeah, I completely agree. Let's move down to Jacksonville with the Jaguars. They signed quarterback Nick Mullins, and they also signed wide receiver De'Ami Brown and signed tight end Hunter Long. And also they signed tight end Johnny Munt. Then they signed offensive guard Patrick McCarry to a 3-year, $37.5 million deal with $22.5 million guaranteed per Mike Garafolo. Then they also signed corner Jordan Lewis to a 3-year, $30 million deal with $20 million fully guaranteed and $12.5 million in year one per Tom Pelissero, Ian Rappaport, Mike Garafolo, and Pete Schrager. I guess everyone just knows this news and breaks it. And then they signed safety Eric Murray.
As a kind of Jags fan, or if you're a Jags fan out there, this is a very
underwhelming.
Okay. What are we doing here? Free agency. I don't know what Liam Cohen's trying to do with the offense.
Yeah.
Lets the tight end walk. Brings in De'Ami Brown. We got Brian Thomas Jr., De'Ami Brown, Parker Washington. I don't have a problem with that. We brought in some offensive line, which I like, but we just didn't bring any superstars. I said during our What's Next episode that the Jags are very just mid all around. They don't have playmakers anywhere. They just have a bunch of mid guys. And this free agency just fits along with that perfectly. We have nothing exciting going on here. So now I'm just looking forward to the draft, seeing what they're going to do in the draft, see if they can make some fireworks happen. But I guess I'll just trust in Liam Cohen here that De'Ami Brown did show some promise last year with Jaden Daniels towards the end of the year, but really all his receivers did. Jamison Crowder showed flashes. Lamine Zaccheaus showed flashes. So I think it was more the offense and less De'Ami Brown.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I'll just let Liam Cohen keep cooking, see what happens.
Yeah, I don't really that's kind of how I feel about these signings. I don't really have anything specific that I like to talk about. It's all just kind of a bunch of, oh, okay. That's kind of all I think about these signings. It's kind of decent. You got some decently big names. To bring in corner Jordan Lewis, I think that's not going to hurt your defense by any means. Bring in someone in a longer deal with pretty good money. So I think that'll do nothing but hurt, but they're probably pretty focused in on the draft, if I were to guess.
Yeah, I wanted to mention just Jordan Lewis real quick. I feel like that's a lot of money. He's going to slot into their nickel corner position, starting position, coming over from Dallas. That just feels like a lot of money for him, I guess.
It does.
I'd love to see maybe in the draft they have the number 5 pick. I'm not saying they're going to go at number 5 toward a starting outside corner, but they could. But they need some help opposite Tyson Campbell, and they just didn't really attack it in free agency. So I guess we will see. But yeah, I'm with you guys. Just kind of feels like a lot of mid signings. I feel like Nick Mullins feels like a quarterback that they've already had. Like
feels like he's been there.
I saw that. I was like, it feels like he's already been there. But I think I'm just thinking of like C.J. Beathard and a different former San Francisco 49ers quarterback. Yeah, Mac Jones. Like these guys are all kind of the same guy.
Yeah, it feels that way.
Even Trevor Lawrence.
Yeah. Let's move to the Tennessee Titans. They signed wide receiver Van Jefferson. They also signed offensive tackle Dan Moore Jr., bringing all the Steelers in. They signed Dan Moore to a 4-year, $82 million deal with $50 million guaranteed and $30 million in year 1.
All the terrible Steelers.
Hey, yeah, exactly. It's okay.
Send him out.
Yeah, and they also signed offensive guard Kevin Zeitler, and they signed edge Draymond Jones. They also re-signed defensive lineman Sebastian Joseph Day and signed linebacker Cody Barton. Then they signed safety Xavier Woods and punter Johnny Hecker.
Punter love.
Johnny Hecker's a dog,
He is a good punter. Yeah.
This Dan Moore signing is another one that's like, what did he do to deserve this?
Nothing.
Good for Dan.
I think it's more so the Titans are desperate than Dan Moore is good.
Yes. Tennessee tax.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So, yeah, I guess they're trying to improve their O-line to prepare for whatever they're going to do in the draft, but I don't think this is going to do a whole lot for them.
Yeah, and that also looks like they're trying to shore up some pieces on defense, or at least get a little bit of depth with those guys coming in. I think that I kind of like Cody Barton as a linebacker, and to bring him back on a 3-year deal, I think that should help shore up that defense for a few years to come, if not just a depth piece, if nothing else. But yeah, I think that should help.
I'll talk Xavier Woods. He kept coming over from Carolina Panthers. He was the Panthers starter there for a few years. He was one of the guys who actually wasn't playing terrible enough to lose his job over there. That's really the highest praise I can give him. I don't love what the Titans did here. I'm still so confused. I think Brian Callahan's going to be gone pretty soon. Because I don't really know what he's doing here. Back to Dan Moore Jr. real quick, just to read off his grades. He had his best grade ever last year on the Steelers. 67.2 overall, run blocking grade of 60.9, pass blocking grade of 66.9, which is very good compared to his other years. But this guy, maybe he'll be better now that he gets away from Myles Garrett, because every year his one-on-one stats with Myles Garrett are just terrible. This guy gets cooked every single year.
Makes sense, yeah.
So maybe that's why...
If you can look at the PFF score by game, can you see like what he's getting again on the games that he's not facing Myles Garrett? Because I'm curious if that stat is just inflated crazily, because like every time he plays Myles Garrett, he gets just like a 20 PFF grade.
Yeah, it's probably pretty low.
See.
If I were to guess.
Last year against Myles Garrett, let's see, Pittsburgh. Oh wait, they wouldn't be playing Cleveland. Last year, pass blocking grade against Cleveland, it was 40.1. And the other game, he actually didn't. He did allow 2 sacks in the other game, but he still. So he earned a pass blocking grade of 58 in that game.
2 sacks and a 58.
Yeah.
What the heck?
He must have been. Myles Garrett must have been laying off him that night or something. He must have been on the opposite side.
Must have been.
It was. Yeah, there's some games in here where he had like really good. I think what it is that he started off the year really well. He didn't allow any sacks, had a pass blocking grade of 88.7 week 1 against the Falcons. Then at the end of the season, he had, against the Ravens, pass blocking grade of 83.7. So he really capped it. Nice sandwich.
Yep.
But either way, he didn't deserve this money.
No, Falcons also, their biggest weakness all year was also edge rusher.
No pass rush at all.
Yeah.
Matt Judon wasn't even there yet at week 1.
Yeah.
All right. And then, I like how they signed a really good punter, because they know they're going to need it.
Oh, yeah.
All right, let's move into the AFC West. Let's start off with the Denver Broncos. They re-signed quarterback Jarrett Stidham. They also signed wide receiver Trent Sherfield, and then they signed tight end Evan Ingram to a 2-year, $23 million deal with $16.5 million fully guaranteed per Ian Rappaport. Then they also re-signed nose tackle DJ Jones, and then they signed linebacker Dre Greenlaw to a 3-year deal worth $35 million per Rappaport. Then they signed safety Talanoa Hufanga to a 3-year deal worth up to $45 million with $20 million guaranteed at signing, per Tom Pelissero and Ian Rappaport.
Mind if I start on this one?
Go for it, buddy.
To start on this one.
Yeah, you can go back to starting after this one. But Sean Payton knows how to build a damn team. I told you this at the end of last offseason. As soon as he cut Russell Wilson, cut Jerry Jeudy, I'm like, this guy knows what he's doing. This guy knows what he's doing. Get the mid out of here. Mm-hmm. We can bring in some younger talent. Bo Nix. Bring in
Troy Franklin.
Troy Franklin. That's the name I was thinking of. Yeah, Audric Estime.
Yes.
Blake Watson. Chris Abrams-Drain along the back end on the cornerback room. So I really love what the Broncos are doing. And let me just say, Sean Payton knows his way to my heart because he went out and he signed one of the best linebackers in the league, in my opinion. Sorry, that might not be a universal opinion, but Dre Greenlaw. If you want some thunder, if you want to lay down a culture of hard-hitting, break your nose whenever I break my nose off of yours.
What?
We're doing that thing like in The Longest Yard where it was like the big guy. He punches the one guy in the face and it breaks his face mask. Broken in my nose, coach. But I love that he brought in Dre Greenlaw and just a hard hitter. He brings in all the pieces that I love, and I literally love everything that Sean Payton is doing, and I think this Broncos team is going to be competitive for quite a long time.
Yeah, this incredible defense gets even better with one of my favorite safeties over the past few years with Talanoa Hufanga. Bringing him into a 3-year deal, it fits that system so well.
Just hard hitter as well.
Yeah, hard hitter, plays with his beautiful, luscious hair on fire, and just runs around the field with, makes me dream of Troy Polamalu running around that back end.
Yeah.
This defense is so stacked now.
So good.
Nick Bonito exploded last year. Pat Surtain, Defensive Player of the Year. Brandon Jones was great. Riley Moss for a white corner, spectacular.
Yeah, for a white corner.
Zach Allen, great. I mean, this defense and the Colts are looking like they just blossomed into the top tier after this free agency. But as for the offense, this is where it gets exciting because I think they're going to address this in the draft. They signed Evan Ingram, tight end, so I think they're going to move away from tight end. Mm-hmm. Maybe a Tez Johnson reuniting, like I said. Trent Sherfield just getting some more depth, and Jarrett Stidham just getting a solid backup quarterback in case Bo Nix were to have some injury problems.
They do need a slot receiver, so
they do.
Tez Johnson?
Tez it is.
They do. All right, let's move into the Kansas City Chiefs. They signed quarterback Gardner Minshew. Look out, Mahomes. Then they also re-signed quarterback Bailey Zappi.
Oh, look out,
Mahomes. Man, these backup quarterbacks are going to be going crazy. Then they re-signed running back Kareem Hunt. They also signed running back Elijah Mitchell. Then they also re-signed wide receiver Marquise Brown to a 1-year contract worth up to $11 million per Tom Pelissero and Ian Rappaport. They also re-signed wide receiver Juju Smith-Schuster to a 1-year deal. And they also signed offensive tackle Jalen Moore to a 2-year, $30 million contract with $21.24 million guaranteed. Per Mike Garafolo, they also signed offensive guard Trey Smith, and then they also re-signed linebacker Nick Bolton to a 3-year, $45 million contract with $30 million fully guaranteed per Ian Rappaport. They also signed cornerback Christian Fulton to a 2-year, $20 million deal that has a max value of $20.5 million and includes $15 million fully guaranteed per Rappaport. And then they got punter Matt Ariza back.
First and foremost, I think the Chiefs front office hit the film room hard. They saw that Patrick Mahomes isn't the same specimen, doesn't provide the same spark that he used to. So they go out and they get some real spark in Gardner Minshew and Bailey Zappi.
All the testosterone.
On a real note, I don't know what they're going to do with this because these are 3 quarterbacks that all deserve to be on a roster. So I'm curious which ones, if it's going to be a real quarterback battle for the second place QB2. But I'm going to talk about Nick Bolton. 3 years, $45 million. Mm-hmm. I don't think he deserves this. I understand that he's been the green dot for the Chiefs for quite some time now, and I think he's getting the friend discount, I guess. Or he's only getting a contract because he's there.
Okay.
I don't like him. I think he's a slow, lumbering linebacker that doesn't really make plays. Leo Chenal's the playmaker here. Justin Reed's a playmaker here. I don't think Nick Bolton does anything exciting for this defense except just kind of communicates.
Yeah.
He does get a decent amount of tackles every year. That's because the defense also doesn't really have a whole lot of linebackers. It's mostly just him. But yeah, I think they paid him too much here. I don't know if this was him demanding that or the Chiefs saying, hey, you deserve it since you've done so well for us here. But yeah, I don't think that he's – who was the other linebacker who got 3 years, $45 million? Jamie and Sherwood.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
No, never mind.
Yeah, I'd much rather have Jamie and Sherwood for this contract than Nick Bolton. I think Jamie and Sherwood provides much more for the defense than Nick Bolton.
I'm really curious what they're doing with their running back room here. I mean, they brought these guys back, Kareem Hunt and Elijah Mitchell. They brought Kareem back for cheap, and they brought in Elijah Mitchell for super cheap, just on 1-year deal. So I'm curious what they're thinking, what their plan's going to do, if they're just going to let these guys go at it and see what happens and figure it's good enough because it worked last year to get them to the Super Bowl. So I don't really know, but, I mean, they brought these guys back super cheap, some guys that have shown at least a little bit of promise. Kareem Hunt's a little bit older, and Elijah Mitchell is, whenever healthy, I mean, he had some moments on the Niners that were promising. So, yeah, I'm really I don't hate it by any means. The guys brought him in for super cheap.
Yeah, I completely agree. I really thought they were going to draft a running back, but I guess they still have Pacheco there too, so it looks like they're just going to go hardcore committee.
Yeah.
I'll talk about Jalen Moore because he's a guy who nobody's ever heard of because he's never played more than 270 snaps on the 49ers. But they're kind of paying him $15 million a year. Obviously, it's not top of the market money, but it is pretty solid money that makes it look like they want him to start. He's only ever played left tackle in the NFL. It seems like the Chiefs always kind of do this. They try to kind of be a step ahead in signing the next breakout tackle. Because obviously they need one. Because Jawan Taylor has not really worked since they got there, and it's been a revolving door at left tackle. They just drafted a guy last year, and then they also had Wanya Morris from the year before. But none of them have really worked out. So I mean, I guess I understand taking a swing, but it just feels like a lot of money for a guy who hasn't really proven anything yet because he hasn't played very much.
Yep, I agree.
And then Marquise Brown getting re-signed to a 1-year deal. I think this is just because he wasn't healthy most last year, so it's like they never really got to experiment with
full
him.
Hollywood experience.
Yeah, so now I think this is his actual prove-it contract. And I think it's going to be scary, him and Xavier Worthy working alongside each other.
Yeah. All right, let's move into the Las Vegas Raiders. They got in a trade quarterback Geno Smith as their new quarterback down there. They also signed running back Raheem Mostert. They also signed offensive guard Alex Kappa, and then they signed edge Max Crosby to a 3-year extension worth $106.5 million with $91.5 million guaranteed per Ian Rappaport and Tom Pelissero. They also re-signed edge Malcolm Kuntz to a 1-year $12 million deal per Ian Rappaport. They signed linebacker Landon Roberts, and they also signed corner Eric Stokes. Then they also signed safety Jeremy Chin to a 2-year deal worth more than $16 million per Mike Garafolo. Then to finish it up, they signed safety Isaiah Polamau.
First and foremost, I actually really like this Jeremy Chin signing. He provided a great spark on the Commanders' defense last year, and I think he's going to do the same for the Raiders here because they already have pieces around him. He can just kind of fill in the last spot and keep being a playmaker. And secondly, my thought process is that this Geno Smith trade is the result of the Raiders' front office and scouts realizing how weak this quarterback class is, and they realized that they needed a quarterback, so they had to make a move and go get Geno Smith. Even though I believe that wasn't in their initial plans, I think that was more of like a just on the fly, we gotta make something happen type of deal.
Geno Smith signing kind of fits their coach acquisitions, bringing in guys that maybe aren't the flashiest, but they know the deal. You know, they've been around. They aren't some experimental head coaches, so this isn't really an experimental quarterback. He's a vet in the league.
Yeah, it's a reunion with Pete Carroll.
Yeah, yeah, and I like these edge signings. Edge is obviously an incredibly important position in the NFL, and also, I mean, you have Max Crosby, one of the best in the league to do it, so might as well shore him up for 3 more years with big money, and then on the other side, it's not as flashy, but just to re-sign an edge that's been there, Malcolm Kuntz, to a 1-year deal just to keep him there for a little bit longer to help out on the other side opposite Max Crosby.
Yeah, I'll talk about Raheem Mostert. He was brought in on a 1-year, $2.1 million deal. Super cheap. And the offensive line last year on the Raiders was actually surprisingly pretty solid. Never really gave the quarterbacks any problems. It was just that the running backs were terrible.
Yeah.
Now, Raheem Mostert, even at whatever age he is now, he's probably 33 or something. He's
up
still
there.
better than Alexander Madison was last year. Still better than Amir Abdullah. Sorry, Amir Abdullah. You got a huge cock. And then who was the other running back they had last year? There,
Zamir White.
Zamir White, yeah. I would take Raheem Mostert over all those guys, and now you got him in there pretty cheap.
Yep.
And then you're gonna bring in. You better draft a running back who can spell him. Raheem Mostert shouldn't be your running back 1 at this point, but I could definitely see them. I've seen mocks where they're taking Ashton Genty at number 6 overall.
Be electric.
So that would be great.
Yeah.
That would be great. So that's. I do like that signing though, just to bring in a better running back for cheap money. I like it.
Agreed. Let's move into the LA Chargers. They are re-signing quarterback Taylor Heineke. Then they also signed running back Najee Harris to a 1-year deal with $5.25 million fully guaranteed, which is a $3.75 million signing bonus plus $1.5 million base and a max value of $9.25 million with incentives per Rappaport, Pelissero, and Garofalo. They also signed wide receiver Mike Williams.
Brought him back.
Yeah, back to the Chargers. And then they re-signed center Bradley Bozeman, and then they signed offensive guard Mekhi Becton to a 2-year, $20 million deal. Then they re-signed edge Khalil Mack to a 1-year, $18 million deal that's fully guaranteed per Rappaport. They re-signed linebacker Denzel Perryman. Then they agreed to a 2-year deal with cornerback Dante Jackson, and they signed cornerback Elijah Molden to a 3-year deal.
First and foremost, I hate this Najee signing. You let Gus Edwards walk. Smart. You bring in another back like Gus Edwards.
Dumb.
J.K. Dobbins was clearly the better back here last year.
Yeah.
And J.K. Dobbins and Najee Harris have such opposite running styles that I don't understand why you try to bring in another power back when the offense showed that it exceeds with more of a speed back and a playmaker. And secondly, this is a little more NFL draft foreplay that I love. Ooh. The let Stone Smart walk.
Yeah.
Will Dissly's the only tight end on their roster right now.
Jim Harbaugh bringing in his guy?
Yes. This is screaming to me what I mentioned in one of our previous episodes, a Colston Loveland, Jim Harbaugh reunion. I would be so excited for that to happen. And we're kind of looks like we're headed that way because we also addressed wide receiver here and Mike Williams. Which is, I think, their idea of addressing wide receiver.
They really
I mean, it's not like they use wide receiver that much in the first place.
Yeah.
They lost Josh Palmer. Ooh. So, yeah, I think they're going to value Colston Loveland more than drafting a receiver.
Yeah, I could see that. They're working a lot on that offensive line, or at least starting to work on that offensive line with bringing Bradley Bozeman back. He hasn't been flashy, but he's been solid for that team for a year, so bringing him back on a multi-year deal is also a pretty big deal. And then to bring in Mekhi Becton, I think that could be a big help to them. He's proven to have lots of success in the past. Maybe it didn't work on the Jets as much, but that was the Jets. It's hard for anything to work on the Jets. So to bring him in, I think that's at least it's going to be a good try to bring in a vet to help on that offensive line to help Justin Herbert.
Yeah, I completely agree. And as well, on the defensive side, the defense was already really good last year. Probably one of the best in the league, top 10 at the worst. I like that they let Joey Bosa walk. He was
just not good on the Chargers.
Just wasn't good. He couldn't stay healthy. He's not his brother, as we've already said. I like that they brought back Khalil Mack, though. A 1-year deal worth $18 million, fully guaranteed. He is getting older, but he was still very productive last year, and I think bringing back a mainstay, a leader in this locker room, a guy who puts up the stats and backs up his talk, I think is going to be a very good move for them, just to kind of keep the core of defensive guys that they can.
Yeah, I agree. All right, moving into the NFC North, we have the Chicago Bears, and they acquired in a trade offensive guard Jonah Jackson. They also acquired in a trade offensive guard Joe Thuney. Then they signed center Drew Dahlman to a 3-year, $42 million contract with $28 million guaranteed per Rappaport. They also signed edge Dayo Odeyingbo to a 3-year, $48 million contract with $32 million fully guaranteed per Tom Pelissero and Ian Rappaport. Then they also signed defensive tackle Grady Jarrett to a 3-year, $43.5 million deal with $28.5 million guaranteed per Tom Pelissero. They're dishing out some money.
I just want to say real quick, I love what the Bears are doing here with their O-line.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
it was obviously a struggle last year, and they addressed it. But I'm going to talk about Grady Jarrett. 3 years, $43.5 million. When comparing this to Milton Williams' deal, $10 million cheaper for Grady Jarrett.
Mm-hmm.
I think this is a hell of a deal. Or Milton Williams just got overpaid, or both. Mm-hmm. But I think this is great for the Bears as well. They're stiffening up their D-line because their secondary was already pretty good last year. So I think that they're starting to turn into a formidable team here.
Yeah, I think so too. I'll touch on that offensive line more about like what they got the guys for. So to bring in offensive guard Jonah Jackson from the Rams in exchange for a 6th-round pick, and then Jonah Jackson signed a 1-year contract extension through 27 and has some guarantees thrown in there also. But to get Jonah Jackson in there for a 6th-round pick, a guy like that, especially offensive lineman, it's always a pretty big gamble when you bring in offensive linemen through the draft. So to get a Jonah Jackson for a 6th-round value, I think is a good deal, especially for a team that really needs it, like the Bears, with Caleb Williams not being able to stay upright last year. I think that's pretty nice. And then, offensive guard Joe Thuney, they brought him in for a 4th-round pick, so a higher value, but he's worth it. I mean, he's been solid on the Chiefs for years, and I like what they're doing here with that offensive line, because I'd like to see them shore that up so that we can see the full Caleb Williams experience, hopefully.
Yeah. Arguably the best Chiefs offensive lineman last year, Joe Thuney. I didn't even know he was on the market.
Me neither.
I didn't know they were looking to get rid of him, but I guess so. It's like none of you guys played good in the Super Bowl, so we're willing to ship everybody out.
Yeah, I think it's pretty good value on. Yeah. I mean, I think that deal specifically is good for both sides. I mean, to get a 4th for him, and then for the Bears to get a guy like Joe Thuney, I think that's good on both sides.
Absolutely. Yeah, but I have to just talk about this offensive line. Brought in Drew Dahlman as well from the Falcons, so now they got 2 Falcons mainstays in the middle of their lines. They got the offensive lineman center, and they got the center on the defensive line, and Grady Jarrett. So these guys are just it's gonna be like old times practice in Atlanta, just in Chicago now.
Yeah,
probably the same amount of crime, just about.
Yeah, maybe more.
Yeah, but still just buddies. I really like what they're doing. Ben Johnson, this is why everybody wanted him. This guy knows what he wants, and he goes and gets it. He's just smart. He's like, we're going to run the ball because that's what we did in Detroit. So we're going to need a good offensive line for that. And he went out, made some big splashes to go do that. So Chicago Bears, everybody was kind of high on them last year. Like, they could maybe sneak into the wild card. Like, no, now this team they're becoming a force to be reckoned with. They're in the right direction.
Yes, they're looking the right direction. Moving to the Detroit Lions, they re-signed wide receiver Tim Patrick. They also re-signed defensive end Marcus Davenport, and then they signed defensive tackle Roy Lopez and re-signed defensive lineman Levi Onwuzurike. And then they signed linebacker Derek Barnes to a 3-year, $25.5 million extension with $16 million guaranteed at signing per Rappaport and Garofolo. Then they signed cornerback DJ Reed to a 3-year, $48 million deal with $32 million guaranteed per Rappaport.
Yeah, I like to see the Lions continue to address their weaknesses, going out and getting DJ Reed to try to ensure this corner position, because Terry Darnold showed that he's not worthy of being the one. So they went out and got a one. And I think it's going to be great for this corner room as well. He's a veteran guy. I think they might have overpaid a little bit for him, but you got to pay for the high-level corners while they're good. So I don't hate it.
Terry Arnold with a 50.2 coverage grade last year.
Damn.
Ooh.
Good.
That's not good.
He's looking like a what's the guy of Ohio State?
Jeff
Okudah. Looking like Jeff Okudah round 2.
Yeah, it's not good. I like that they brought back Tim Patrick because he now knows the system and he fit well last year. He didn't do a lot, but he was good to spell those guys that they had there. And to bring him in for a deal worth up to $4 million, I mean that's basically nothing. So might as well bring in a depth piece at wide receiver when they're clearly so like electric on offense, and that's their main deal. To bring in a piece like that for cheap, hey, might as well. I like it.
I love the Tim Patrick story. It was so cool to see him have a really big role down the stretch. Played well as the wide receiver 3 between J-Mo and Amon-Ra. So I love to see them bring him back too. I'm going to talk about Derek Barnes. He's been a guy who's kind of flown under the radar on this team because they got Malcolm Rodriguez ahead of him. They got Alex Anal Zone.
Yes.
Anzalone.
Nice.
And they got Jack Campbell as well. But I'm a fan of Derek Barnes. He is a guy who is a special teams and just kind of middle of the defense mainstay who hits hard. He buys into the Lions, everything that the Lions are and want to be. So I think that bringing him back is very smart because they might be losing some of those guys. Malcolm Rodriguez only has one more year before he might walk. Anzalone, I don't know if they're going to be wanting to pay him again because he's getting older up there. So I think Derek Barnes keeping him is going to be very smart in the long run.
Yeah. Moving into the Green Bay Packers, they agreed to terms with offensive guard Aaron Banks. They agreed to a 4-year deal, $77 million deal with $27 million guaranteed. Wow, that is quite the difference there in guaranteed.
I don't know how Gutekunst does this.
Yeah,
he got Josh Jacobs last year with very little guaranteed money. Same thing with Xavier McKinney. I don't know how he talks these guys. He throws them. That's
weird.
The big number, like writes it down on paper, slides it across the desk, like, oh yeah, I'll sign for that, and then he.
Flip the paper over,
yeah, and then he's like, this is what you'll actually be getting paid unless you do something for us.
Yeah, then they agreed to terms to a 4-year deal with corner Nate Hobbs. That's a $48 million deal with $16 million guaranteed per Tom Pelissero. Yep, same thing we just talked about. Mm-hmm. And then they re-signed kicker Brandon McManus to a 3-year contract worth $15.3 million with a $5 million signing bonus.
I love this Nate Hobbs signing.
Yeah.
4 years, $48 million is a lot, but 16 guaranteed is perfect for him because when he's on the field, he's great, but he just can't stay healthy. Packers' nickel corner position last year was weak. Nate Hobbs just filled that in. Now we have Nate Hobbs in the slot. We got Jair outside and Keyshawn Nixon outside. Mm-hmm. I think this corner room is going to be pretty good now. Now they just need to address linebackers some more and a couple more D linemen here and there, and then the defense is going to be ready to go.
Yeah.
Yep. I like that they brought back kicker Brandon McManus just because I feel for Green Bay. They've struggled so bad with kicker over the years. Finally found a vet that's good and just let's keep him here. Let's do what we can to keep him here. So I like that they did that.
Yeah, if you got a kicker that works, you better hang on to him.
Yeah.
Especially for what Green Bay's been through. We'll talk about Aaron Banks out of San Francisco is where he was coming from. San Francisco with those offenses. They really elevate their offensive linemen. It's get the ball out quick so that you guys don't have to block for as long, so that you guys can't get called for holds or penalties or make you guys look bad. Makes you guys look better. And he moves over to another Shanahan system on the Packers. So looks like a lot of money, but as you said, the goose. I'm a goose. He does it with very little guaranteed money. So I think it'll be a good signing with a small adjustment period.
Yeah. Let's move into the Minnesota Vikings. They have also been busy during this free agency period. They re-signed running back Aaron Jones to a 2-year, $20 million deal with $13 million guaranteed per Rappaport. They also got in a trade running back Jordan Mason from San Francisco. And then they signed offensive guard Will Fries to a 5-year, $88 million deal with $44 million guaranteed per Rappaport and Pelissero. They also signed center Ryan Kelly. Then they also signed defensive tackle Jonathan Allen to a 3-year, $51 million deal that has a max value of $60 million with $31.25 million guaranteed, and that's per Rappaport and Pelissero also. And then they signed another defensive tackle, Javon Hargrave, to a 2-year, $30 million contract with $19 million guaranteed per Pelissero and Rappaport. And also on their defensive side, they re-signed cornerback Byron Murphy to a 3-year, $54 million deal with a max value of $66 million per Garofalo, Pelissero, and Rappaport. They also signed cornerback Isaiah Rodgers, and they signed safety Theo Jackson, and they signed safety Harrison Smith.
Very briefly, there's another defense is looking like they're taking that step into the elite level here. Mm-hmm. But I'm going to talk about this running back room. Aaron Jones was good for them last year, so they bring him back. And then Aaron Jones has had injury problems throughout his whole career. Nothing serious, but always just nagging injuries that he misses 2 to 4 games a year. So to combat that, they bring in Jordan Mason. I love this. Jordan Mason can take some of the weight off Aaron Jones' shoulders. He showed in San Fran that he can be a big bruising back that punishes defenses and wears them out. So I think this is going to be perfect. They can be another Thunder and Lightning like Jahmyr Gibbs, David Montgomery type.
Yeah, they brought Jordan Mason in for cheap also with a 2-year contract worth up to $12 million with only $7 million guaranteed. So, yeah, I think that's a good move. But, yeah, on this defensive side, I like these tackles they brought in. Jonathan Allen and Javon Hargrave, 2 staples in the league, 2 absolute studs. And to bring them in to shore up that already incredible defense from last year with Brian Flores, I think this is a great move for that defensive line.
Yeah, I completely agree. A lot of analysts are saying that Minnesota has had the best offseason so far. And I could definitely understand that. They're making a lot of moves here, spending a lot of money, and I think it's going to work because they brought in 2 big-name offensive linemen from the Colts in Will Fries and Ryan Kelly. They're paying Will Fries the bag because he's always been really well. That Indianapolis Colts offensive line last year was very good. They were grading out very well according to PFF, so I like that they brought in these 2 guys to make things a little bit easier, hopefully, for J.J. McCarthy. Or maybe Aaron Rodgers. I don't know. We don't know.
We don't know.
Kind of looking like no, but...
Yeah. And it's also worth mentioning Harrison Smith, the Hitman, returns for his 14th season, all with Minnesota. It's just been a staple down there. So good for him to come back for more football.
Yeah.
Let's move into the NFC East. The Dallas Cowboys. They signed running back Miles Sanders. They also signed running back Javonte Williams. Then they signed edge Dante Fowler Jr., and then they also re-signed edge Osa Odigizua to a 4-year, $80 million contract that includes $58 million guaranteed per Rappaport and Mike Garafolo. They also signed defensive lineman Solomon Thomas, and they got in a trade linebacker Kenneth Murray Jr. They traded with the Titans to get him. Then they also traded with the Bills to get cornerback Khair Elam. And they also re-signed safety Marquise Bell, and then finally they re-signed kick returner / wide receiver, just kind of all-around stud, Kavonte Turpin to a 3-year, $18 million deal. And that's per Tom Pelissero and Jane Slater. And he was a restricted free agent.
Kick returns and punt returns have always been boring to watch for me ever since Devin Hester and Josh Cribbs retired.
Yep.
But Kavonte Turpin is the guy that I want to watch when he's returning kicks and punts. He is so electric. If the offense stalls out, you can always rely on him. Maybe he'll run one back for a touchdown or at least get you great field position. So this is a great signing for them, strictly as a kick returner. But also as a wide receiver, he showed some flashes. And he showed that he's developing into more of a route runner, good hands.
Yeah.
He can really do it all. So this is an excellent signing to bring him back.
Yeah, I like that they brought back that defensive lineman Osa Odigizua, who's been a stud for them for years. He kind of flies under the radar because he's in the shadow of Micah Parsons. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, obviously that's going to happen. But he's clearly been a stud if you watch him at all, and then the money shows it. I mean, they paid him very well, 4-year, $80 million contract with $58 million guaranteed. So it's good for him to get his money and get back in there and help on that defense.
Yeah, Odigizua feels a lot like Madubuike that the Ravens just signed last year to big money, like a guy who's better at pass rush than he is guarding against the run. So I guess we'll see how this works out. I feel like this is a lot of money for him.
It's a lot of money.
Yeah. I'll talk about the aggravating running back room that they keep seemingly bringing in retreads in Miles Sanders and Javonte Williams. Obviously, not very much money, 1-year deals for each of them, but I hope for their own sake that this doesn't mean that they're not going to draft a running back. Like they better still draft a running back. Now Jerry's on his own time. He's probably out on a boat somewhere, not even thinking about football. Probably wasn't thinking about football whenever he made these moves. But,
no, because they let Rico Dowdle walk.
Yeah, they let Rico Dowdle walk and brought in some older guys who showed less last year. So
it's crazy because it seems like every mock draft I've looked at has had Ashton Genty going to the Cowboys, and now this completely changes that.
Yeah.
I just want to talk about a couple more things here. First of all, Khair Elam.
Yep.
You guys remember him getting cooked in the playoffs last year?
Yeah.
The Bills corner. So I don't understand why they're so eager to bring him in, but whatever. Dante Fowler Jr., they bring him in on the edge. He flashed on the Commanders last year because he was pretty much their only edge rusher that they had. And then lastly, I didn't realize how cheap Jerry Jones was. Osa Odigizua was their first contract that they've signed in free agency. Or no, Dante Fowler Jr. was their first contract that they signed in free agency over $6 million a year since 2015.
Oh, yeah, I saw it. Greg Hardy.
Yeah, 10 years.
Yeah.
They haven't made a free free agency move worth more than $6 million a year.
That's crazy, but it is Jerry Jones, so it's like, well.
Yeah. Shows why they've been so bad since then.
Yeah, exactly. Let's move into the New York Giants. This is the best news probably all day.
Yes.
They re-signed quarterback Tommy DeVito.
Tommy Cutlets.
Okay, they have their guy. They also re-signed wide receiver Darius Slayton to a 3-year deal worth $36 million with $22 million guaranteed, per Rappaport and Mike Garafolo. Must be some New York tax, but he was solid for him. So they also signed offensive tackle James Hudson. They signed edge Chauncey Golston. Then they also signed defensive lineman Roy Robertson Harris, and they signed cornerback Paulson Adebo to a 3-year, $54 million contract that includes $36 million fully guaranteed, per Rappaport and Mike Garafolo. And they also signed safety Javon Holland to a 3-year, $45.3 million deal that includes $30.3 million in guarantees, per Rappaport and Pelissero.
First of all, I just want to say I'm really excited to watch Javon Holland and Tyler Newman work together.
Oh, man.
Yes.
So I'm going to talk about Darius Slayton. I feel this is an unnecessary signing. 3 years, $36 million, and he's, in my opinion, the wide receiver 3 in that offense. Malik Neighbors is by far the one, and then Wan'Dale Robinson showed the most promise behind him. So I think if you're going to give anybody money, it should be those two, and eventually Malik Neighbors is going to need a lot of money.
Yep.
Wan'Dale is probably going to need about the same contract Darius Slayton just got, maybe more. I do like Darius Slayton, but I feel like you could have gone for cheaper or less money guaranteed or something. I want to know who's demanding this, which side, if Darius Slayton was starting to walk. But yeah, I like the signing, but not for this money.
Yep, true. That's kind of how I feel about the corner, Paulson Adebo. I mean, he proved that he's a stud. He was what, Raiders?
He came from
he
Saints.
was Saints. That's it. Yeah, Saints, not Raiders. But he had some good success down there most of the time. But it still feels like a lot of money. But hey, I think this is a New York tax situation.
Yeah.
One, to live in New York, and two, to play for the Giants, who are a dumpster right now. So, but to get him in there alongside Javon Holland, who I don't know if you're going to talk about him more, but I think those are two pretty solid signings to get them in the building.
Yeah, it is an expensive Adebo signing for a guy who you have to take swings at corner after your outside corners last year were bad. Deontay Banks hasn't really shown a whole lot yet. Cordell Flott just doesn't even sound like a good football player. And then he isn't. So Drew Phillips in the slot was really good for them as a rookie last year. Javon Holland. With the accent over the O that I didn't know about.
Yes.
But he's a very, very good football player, and I am so excited. I said that I wouldn't buy into the Giants because they were keeping Brian Dable. But I don't know. I kind of find myself falling in love with this defense, guys. We got Javon Holland. Tyler Newman was my guy for me last year. My safety one. Yeah. Cody's as well.
Yep.
Kayvon Thibodeau is a menace off the edge. And then on the other side, they got Brian Burns, who he's very skinny and long and fast. Kind of looks like Slender Man. Dexter Lawrence then in the middle, one of the best defensive tackles in the league. Yep. I love what they are doing here.
Bobby Okereke.
Yeah. And then on the offense, you already mentioned Malik Neighbors and Wan'Dale Robinson. I think that Tyron Tracy is very solid as well. Just need a quarterback. I feel like this team is closer than you think. They just need a quarterback. So I said I wouldn't buy into the Giants, but I don't know. After this Javon Holland signing, I love the idea of him and Newman back there.
I don't know, Jim.
Now just imagine if instead of paying that $12 million to Darius Slayton, you paid to Saquon instead.
Yeah, I keep seeing those memes.
Yeah.
I think Darius Slayton, obviously, it would have been better to pay that money to Saquon, but I mean, Darius Slayton is underrated. I feel like every time, whenever they need somebody to step up, whenever Malik Neighbors is out at a concert while he's concussed, Darius Slayton would usually step up.
He's been solid there for a few years. He's been solid,
but I completely agree with you that this money should have went to Saquon. But what are you gonna do now?
Yeah, this defense is also very close to that elite tier that we keep talking about. I don't think it's quite there because they haven't shown it on the field, but on paper they have all the pieces to be in the middle of the elite tier.
And they're young too. Yeah. All these guys are young. Dexter Lawrence and or Brian Burns are the youngest, and they're still not even close to 30 yet.
The oldest.
Yeah, the oldest. Yeah, my bad.
Yeah.
The oldest, but they're not close to 30.
Yeah. Moving to the Super Bowl champions, the Philadelphia Eagles. They got in a trade quarterback Dorian Thompson-Robinson that we talked about earlier with the Browns. They also signed running back Saquon Barkley to a 2-year extension worth $41.2 million in new money with $36 million guaranteed at signing and $15 million more in incentives, and that's per Rappaport and Pelissero. They also signed running back A.J. Dillon, and they signed tight end Harrison Bryant, and also they signed tight end Kylan Granson. And then they acquired in a trade offensive guard Kenyon Green, and they signed a 1-year deal with edge Josh Uche, and then they re-signed linebacker Zach Bond, and they signed cornerback Adoree Jackson.
I want to hear what you guys have to say about their defense getting picked apart and plucked at, but I'm going to talk about the obvious, Saquon for right now. 2-year extension, $41 million more. I think that this is unnecessary.
Yeah.
He still has, is it 2 years left on his current contract? Or
Probably.
I think it was a 2-year deal that he signed.
Okay, so
previously.
1 year left.
I'll find it.
Running backs now are they get signed less because injuries and old age devalues them. I think this is more of like a end-of-year bonus, like, congratulations, you did a great job for us. We're going to give you a end-of-year bonus at work because you made us so much money type of deal rather than, like, a we want to stick you around forever. Because surely not everyone in that front office can think that he's going to stay healthy for the rest of his career. I think it's only a matter of time before he gets injured here. I hate to say it, but lots of wear and tear last year. Mm-hmm. He's got bad knees. He's getting old. And I think that they may regret this because there's $36 million of it guaranteed. That's a lot.
Yeah, he had 2 years left on his previous deal.
Okay, 2
so
years
he's
left,
now
yeah.
signed through 2028.
Good for him.
Yeah.
Get that money, buddy. But yeah, it may be expensive, but who knows? I mean, the guy, even if it is expensive for the future, yeah, it may just be a congratulatory. I mean, he almost broke the record, and he carried that team to the Super Bowl. Mm-hmm. Maybe not in the final games, but he carried them through the whole season, obviously, to get there. I love Zach Bond, and that they bring him back on a 3-year, $51 million deal with $34 million guaranteed. Sure, that's a lot of money, but he exploded this past year, and with them losing some of the defensive pieces that they did, shore up your linebacker position and keep him with you. To keep one of your staples in that linebacking room. I think that's a great deal for them.
Yeah, he earned every bit of the All-Pro honor that he got this year.
Yeah.
And definitely earned this contract as well. I thought it was funny. I mentioned this to you guys off the air a couple days ago, how they let Darius Slay walk after he said he wanted to retire an Eagle. Obviously, he was going to be getting more money than the old head that they signed in the cornerback room. Mm-hmm. But they brought in Adoree Jackson from the Giants. I guess just a good mentor face for the young corners that they have in Quinyon and Cooper DeJean. So I guess I'm okay with that. It's cheap, 1 year, $2.5 million a year. I don't know. It was just kind of confusing how they just let Darius Slay walk and then brought in a different old guy. I'll also mention Josh Uche. He was very, very efficient whenever he was on the Patriots, just as a strictly pass rusher.
Yeah.
Can get some pressures, get a few sacks here and there, and work well in this committee that the Eagles have built up on the defensive line because you got so many pieces there. Everybody you bring in is going to look pretty good and do something for you because they don't have to play all the snaps because you got a very, very solid rotation going through. So I think Uche is going to fill in right there where they let Josh Sweat walk.
Yep.
I love how they gave him. So it's $1.25 million contract, and then he can get another $500,000, almost double his deal in sack incentives. Mm-hmm. I love that. I just love incentives like that because it's motivating the guys to actually play as best they can.
Right.
Yep.
And he knows that basically if he goes to the Eagles, it seems like the Eagles are a pipeline for guys. If you want to get more money, you come and play here, you play well, and then you get paid the bag.
Yeah.
Definitely.
And Kenyon Green I think this is just replacing.
It'll be replacing
who got poached? Becton, yeah. Becton got poached. This is just strengthening that O-line.
Yes.
Yep. All right, let's move into the Washington Commanders. They re-signed quarterback Marcus Mariota, and they also re-signed running back Jeremy McNichols and re-signed wide receiver KJ Osborne. And then they acquired in a trade with the 49ers. They acquired wide receiver Deebo Samuel, And then they re-signed tight end John Bates and re-signed tight end Zach Ertz. And they re-signed tight end Zach Ertz to a 1-year, $6.25 million deal worth up to $9 million with incentives. Also in a trade, they acquired offensive tackle Laramie Tunsil from the Texans, and they agreed to a 1-year deal with edge Dietrich Wise.
Yep.
And they signed to a 3-year deal defensive lineman Javon Kinlaw, $45 million deal with $30 million guaranteed per Rappaport. They also re-signed linebacker Bobby Wagner. They signed cornerback Jonathan Jones, and they signed safety Will Harris.
I'm probably the biggest Commanders fan here because my guy, Jaden, but I'm going to let you guys start here because I feel that you both feel most passionately about two of these moves specifically.
I don't know which ones you mean.
I'm a Debo guy. So.
That's what I was talking about for you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just to give Jaden Daniels somebody to kind of run these short breaking routes, get some yards after the catch, make things easier on him so that Jaden doesn't have to do it all with his legs. I think that Debo Samuel, he had a down year last year, but I think he will still easily step in and be the wide receiver 2 on this team. So I'm very excited to see what Debo Samuel can do in a Commander's uniform, for sure.
Talking about the tight ends with me?
Yes,
Goodness,
sir.
what are we doing, man? I mean, we got our guy, Ben Sinnott, sitting there. Sure, he's a blocking, all-around guy. It's like, okay, tight end Zach Ertz, re-sign him. All right, I get it. He's more of an offensive weapon at this point than Ben Sinnott is. But John Bates, I mean, get our guy in there. What are we doing, man?
Ben Sinnott's a former fullback. You think he can't block like John Bates?
Yeah.
Oh, I mean, good for those guys getting money, but I just want to see our guy.
Yeah, I love Ben Sinnott too, but I do really understand the Zach Ertz signing because time and time again, 3rd down, 4th down, had to have it.
Yeah.
Jaden Daniels and Zach Ertz somehow make it happen. Zach Ertz, old ass.
Yeah.
Somehow making plays. Reminded me of Travis Kelce out there.
Yeah.
He's now 34.3 years old, so
Wow.
he'll be just about 35 whenever the season starts.
Yeah. But I think it was great that they brought back Bobby Wagner. He was an excellent veteran presence on this defense, helped turn this defense and this culture around. Bring in Javon Kinlaw, pay him quite a bit. That's going to shore up the D-line where they lost in Jonathan Allen. And then Will Harris is kind of filling back in for Jeremy Chin. So this defense, it looks like they're building it, but they're really just replacing all the pieces that they lost in free agency.
Yep.
Last year, just Bobby Wagner, he is still playing at a very, very high level. Last year, he played the most snaps that he ever has in the NFL in a season at his age 34 NFL season. And he's still graded out with an 88.3 overall defensive grade, which is still up there. He is all in the green and blue. Like, blue is the highest in the PFF grades, and then it goes like green, and like that works his way down to red. But he's still in the blue. It is crazy what he's been doing over the course of his career. He has had 13 now seasons back to back of great football play.
Yeah, he just continued to surprise me again and again. I'm like, how is Bobby Wagner still doing this?
I know.
I didn't realize that he was healthy all year. Didn't have any problems. Played probably every single snap.
Yeah. I also like that they brought in offensive tackle Laramie Tunsil. I forgot to.
Yes.
That's a huge deal for them, and that was a big trade. I mean, I'll just lay it out anyways because it was big. They got him from the Texans along with the 2025 4th-round pick, and the Commanders sent to the Texans a 3rd and 7th-round pick in 2025 and a 2nd and 4th-round pick in 26.
Yeah,
That's a lot of capital.
It's a lot of capital, so they must really believe in this guy. But he's a stud, and I think that'll be big for him too. Moving into the NFC South, we got the Atlanta Falcons. They re-signed wide receiver Cladero Hodge, and they also signed offensive tackle Jake Matthews to a 2-year, $45 million extension with $38 million fully guaranteed per Mike Garafolo and Ian Rappaport. They also signed edge Leonard Floyd and defensive lineman Morgan Fox, and they also signed linebacker Divine Diablo, and they re-signed cornerback Mike Hughes.
So I'm going to talk about something that actually isn't here. Kirk Cousins is not going to be released ahead of the deadline, so he's going to receive his $10 million roster bonus. So I feel they're kind of committed to him for the season now as a backup. I think they're going to keep him just in case the feces hits the rotational wind deflector with Michael Penix. Yeah. And also, he's just going to give a veteran presence for Michael Penix and maybe some extra motivation as well.
Yeah, I agree. These are all just kind of a bunch of moves, but probably my favorite one is to signed back linebacker Divine Diablo to that 2-year deal. That's $14 million deal with $8 million guaranteed in year one. So, or $8 million in year one. But he was a stud down there for Atlanta, and
he was in Oakland. Oakland. Damn it, Las Vegas.
It's the same deal. But yeah, he was a stud in Oakland, now in Atlanta, obviously. But yeah, I think that's just a good little piece to add. Might as well add more to that defense with those hard hitters back there. And yeah, I like the way he plays.
That's kind of what I'm scared of, is that they didn't add enough to the defense. I think that there's another part, like Carson said, where they are showing their cards. They're foreplaying the draft. This team, I think, is going to and really has to go heavy in the draft at defense, because the offense last year, it worked, it clicked. Yeah, Kirk Cousins messed it up every now and then, but yeah, Kirk Cousins, I feel like, is going to be an okay backup. He's a very humble guy, and he has the same gunslinging play style that Michael Penix does, so I think that he'll be a solid mentor for him. But man, this Falcons team has to go defense, please. Yeah. If Mike Hughes is your cornerback too, and you're signing him back because you're like, hey, he was pretty good last year, it's like you got a problem. You need to first admit that you have a problem. They went Leonard Floyd was their biggest defensive line signing here.
Yep.
Is Leonard Floyd better than Matt Judon? No, he's not. No. Go make some kind of splash, please.
Yep, I think they're going to need it. Let's moving down to the Carolina Panthers. They re-signed quarterback Andy Dalton. They also signed running back Rico Dowdle. And they re-signed tight end Tommy Tremble, signed edge Patrick Jones II, and they signed defensive lineman Tershawn Wharton to a 3-year deal worth up to $54.5 million with $30 million guaranteed per Mike Garafolo. They also signed nose tackle Bobby Brown III, and they signed linebacker Christian Roseboom, and they also signed cornerback J.C. Horn. They agreed to terms on a 4-year extension worth $100 million with $70 million guaranteed. That's big money, dude, and that's per Ian Rappaport. They also agreed to terms with cornerback Mike Jackson, Michael Jackson, and they signed safety Trevon Moehrig to a 3-year, $51 million deal that has a max value of $60 million per Ian Rappaport.
That is big money.
This defense is starting to look pretty solid. It cost them a lot of money, but it's looking better.
Carolina
I'm going to talk about the running back room. I don't understand what this Rico Dowdle signing is all about. I guess they're just committing to the committee, but they already signed Chuba Hubbard to a pretty big deal.
Oh, he's definitely the leader, and Jonathan Brooks is hurt now.
Yeah, Jonathan Brooks is tore his ACL again, and that could be they'll just bring him in for a year to kind of spell Jonathan Brooks till he can get back. Mm-hmm. But they showed last year they want Chuba Hubbard to be the guy. They hardly even use Miles Sanders, so it's kind of an expensive backup running back in my opinion, but I guess they have money to burn.
Yeah, I guess so. I'll mention that cornerback signing J.C. Horn to a 4-year extension worth $100 million with $70 million guaranteed.
Oh yeah,
that's huge money. But yeah, you talked about that defense starting to shore up a little bit. Mm-hmm. I think that this is just them wanting to shore up that cornerback 1 position, and that'll certainly do it.
Yeah. Definitely, yeah. J.C. Horn has always been good. He's always been the piece on the Panthers that's like, well, at least they have J.C. Horn.
Yeah.
But they still need to attack corner. Mike Jackson doesn't really solve anything. He's just a cheap guy to keep there. Maybe singing some tunes every now and then. Yeah. But I like how they brought in those 2 defensive linemen, Tershawn Wharton from the Chiefs and Bobby Brown III from the Rams. This team couldn't stop the run at all last year, but they also couldn't rush the passer either. So luckily they get Derek Brown back from injury, and they really, really need to attack edge in the draft because Patrick Jones II doesn't stop you from doing that at all. But what I really like on this defense is their linebacker room that they have now. They got Josie Jewell. He's a tackle machine. Usually is up there in the tackle leaders throughout the year. Christian Roseboom is another white guy who's a tackle machine. He came from the Rams, the guy with the long, greasy locks of hair.
Yes.
That's Christian Roseboom. And then I think Trevin Wallace stepped in really well last year and played his tail off. So I think that this team is looking up. And the offense, I think they still need to attack wide receiver for sure in the draft. Get another piece to go along with Leggett and Adam Thielen, even though Jalen Coker did play really well, but still just keep adding there.
Yep.
But I really like what the Panthers are doing here. It's not big flashy moves, but it's moves to get better.
It's not as ugly as it was.
No.
So that's a step in the right direction.
Yes.
Moving to the New Orleans Saints, they are re-signing tight end Juwan Johnson to a 3-year, $30.75 million deal that has a max value of $34.5 million and includes $21.25 million guaranteed per Pelissero, Rappaport, and Mike Garafolo. They also are signing edge Cam Jordan. He is returning for his 15th NFL season, which are all with New Orleans. And they are also signing back edge Chase Young. And he's returning on a 3-year, $51 million deal that has a max value of $57 million per Rappaport. And they signed cornerback Isaac Yiadom to a 3-year deal. And they signed safety Justin Reed to a 3-year, $31.5 million deal with $22.5 million fully guaranteed.
I'm kind of surprised by this Chase Young signing because last year, for his whole career, Chase Young's shown effort issues, discipline issues, all this. And I feel like last year he was also questioned for his effort during some games. So they go and give him a 3-year deal, $51 million.
Hey, Mickey.
Mickey Loomis.
And it seems like I was expecting more of just a 1-year deal again because these problems that keep recurring. So I'd be concerned if I was a Saints fan about what Chase Young's going to do effort-wise, off the field-wise, attitude-wise. But he got paid now, so.
Yep. I like them bringing in or re-signing tight end Juwan Johnson after he had that huge year last year and, earning all this money. So I'm glad he got paid for it and brought him in. But I really like that they brought in Justin Reed as a safety. I think that's a big deal, big signing for him, and he should help that back end quite a bit.
I just wish this team would get younger, man. It's time, Mickey. It's just time to cut these guys that are weighing you down on the salary cap and just realize that you're not a team that's going to compete right now. Just cut some of these guys and get younger. Like Cam Jordan is obviously 15th season in the NFL is what he's returning for. Isaac Yiadom is 29 years old. Justin Reed is no spring chicken either.
Yeah.
Chase Young is the youngest one of these signings that they've had here, and he's also been in the league for like 6 years.
Demario Davis. Tyrann Mathieu.
Exactly. The safety room now is so old.
It's
obviously,
old, yeah.
Still productive, but I won't even mention any of these guys just because I feel like they're all pretty okay signings if they were to a team that's actually ready to compete. The Saints just need to realize where they are and just start cutting bait, man. Just get younger.
Yeah, they do. All right, let's move into Tampa Bay. The Buccaneers, they re-signed quarterback Kyle Trask, and they re-signed wide receiver Chris Godwin to a 3-year, $66 million deal with $44 million fully guaranteed at signing, per Rappaport. They also signed wide receiver Sterling Shepard, and they are re-signing offensive guard Ben Bredesen, and they signed edge Hassan Reddick to a 1-year, $14 million deal with $12 million guaranteed, per Rappaport. They're also re-signing linebacker Levante David on a 1-year, $10 million contract that has $9 million guaranteed. They're signing linebacker Anthony Walker Jr., and they signed cornerback Kendall Villador.
This is a big contract for a 29-year-old wide receiver coming off an injury. I think that they're just keeping him in Tampa Bay for the rest of his career now, just like they do with Mike Evans, but to treat these guys right.
Yeah.
And $22 million a year. If Chris Godwin returns to his previous form that he was like before his injury, this is a hell of a deal for the Buccaneers. And I'm happy for him because I love Chris Godwin and I love him on the Buccaneers here. So
Penn State guy,
that's right.
Yep. Yeah, I think that is a good signing too. This Hassan Reddick deal obviously scares me and probably Buccaneers fans because is he going to show up? I mean, he's got a deal, so that's
a lot guaranteed.
Good. It is a lot guaranteed for a guy that's been, I don't know, maybe not as productive as he was a few years ago. So we'll see. It might be a lot of money. It feels like kind of a lot of money for him, but maybe he'll come out there and prove it. That's what they're hoping, I'm sure.
Yeah, I'm okay with the Hassan Reddick deal. This is just a team that needs to keep taking stabs at edge rusher. They need pass rush help. So bringing in Hassan Reddick, a guy who basically hasn't really played in the past 2 years, I think that's okay. He'll probably do better than Joe Tryon-Shoyinka would, so that's okay. But Levante David, he's just like Chris Godwin. He is still playing at a very high level, and he is the mainstay. He is the green dot on this defense. The captain has been for years. You can't get rid of this guy. I mean, 1 year, $10 million contract, $9 million guaranteed. That's fine. I feel like he wants to and should retire a Buccaneer for everything that he's done for this team.
Agreed.
So that is very worthwhile in my eyes.
Yeah. All right, moving into the NFC West, we'll start with the Arizona Cardinals. They signed quarterback Jacoby Brissett to a 2-year deal. They also are re-signing wide receiver Zay Jones and offensive guard Evan Brown. And they're also re-signing edge Baron Browning to a 2-year, $15 million deal with a max value of $19 million per Rappaport. They re-signed edge LJ Collier. And they signed edge Josh Sweat from the Eagles for a 4-year contract worth $76.4 million, including $41 million guaranteed per Rappaport. And they signed defensive lineman Dalvin Tomlinson to a 2-year, $29 million deal with $16 million guaranteed, and signed linebacker Akeem Davis-Gaither to a 2-year contract.
Josh Sweat, another Eagles guy getting overpaid because of the Super Bowl bias. 4 years, $80 million just about. $20 million a year is crazy. But I can't hate it because the Cardinals really have to make a swing. This defense has zero spark behind Budda Baker, half a spark from Baron Browning, all the other cylinders, no spark. They need new sparkulators. And taking a swing on Josh Sweat, I don't hate. Like I said, you got to make something happen, so I appreciate the effort here.
Yeah, I like that. I like this Baron Browning signing even more because they brought in Josh Sweat. Hopefully a guy that'll help tie that edge room together and tie both sides of the lineup. Because Baron Browning, he's very serviceable, pretty decent player, and yeah, I think having that edge help in Josh Sweat will really help up his game this upcoming season. And yeah, that's important for this Cardinals defense.
My guy, LJ Collier. I didn't know who he was until this year because that's kind of who the Cardinals were playing on defense, a bunch of guys who nobody knew who they were.
Exactly.
But LJ Collier was one of the pressure leaders on this team. And I was like, who the hell? But, I mean, to get him back on a 1-year deal worth up to $4 million, just as a good rotation piece, I like what the Cardinals are doing here on their defensive line. They're bringing in guys so they can have a nice, solid rotation. Are any of them superstars? Absolutely not. I don't think Josh Sweat deserves that at all. I think this is all recency bias, just like you said, Carson. But I like whenever teams bring in guys that are all solid, who can create a good rotation along the defensive line, like the Eagles do so well. Mm-hmm. So I think this is a good start for a team who had nobody on the defense last year and overperformed. So bring in some guys who can hopefully keep moving in the right direction on this defense.
Looking at this defense, oh man, they're bad.
It is crazy how few names they have on this defense.
Some of their starters here: Justin Jones,
yeah,
Dalvin Tomlinson, Darius Robinson. We scouted him first round edge last year. Didn't do a whole lot.
Nope.
Mac Wilson Sr.
Yeah.
Jalen Thompson, Max Melton, Garrett Williams.
Yeah.
Who? Is this a UFL team or?
It sounds like it.
It says Max Milton was a second-round pick last year.
He was out of Rutgers.
I don't remember scouting him.
Bo Melton's brother.
Yeah.
We did. We glossed over him just because he wasn't really one of the best guys.
Point proven. This defense has nobody.
Yep. Yeah. Hopefully they address that in the draft. I'm sure.
Yeah, I'm sure they definitely will.
Yep. Let's move on to the Los Angeles Rams. They signed quarterback Jimmy Garoppolo to a 1-year deal. And also they signed or restructured the contract with Matthew Stafford, as I'm sure everyone's heard about. And they also signed wide receiver Devontae Adams to a 2-year contract worth $46 million with $26 million guaranteed, including a $12 million signing bonus per Rappaport. They're also re-signing wide receiver Tutu Atwell to a 1-year deal, and they are re-signing offensive tackle Alaric Jackson on a 3-year, $57 million deal. That includes $35 million guaranteed per Rappaport and Pelissero, and they are signing defensive lineman Poona Ford to a 3-year deal.
I love them re-signing Alaric Jackson here. He was their best O-lineman last year. He's still young, and for them to tie him down for the foreseeable future is huge for this offense, no matter who the quarterback is.
Mm-hmm. I like that they restructured the contract with Matthew Stafford. He is the straw that stirs the drink. He makes this offense click, and with another quarterback in there, I don't know if the Rams would be the Rams that we know and love. Mm-hmm. I think Stafford does more than some people realize. A lot of people realize his talent and like his ability and just how good he is at pretty much everything, how much he knows the game. But I think I'm glad he's still there because he's what's going to keep the Rams relevant, in my opinion.
I can't get on board with the Devontae Adams signing. You cut Cooper Kupp.
Yeah,
because you're like, we're paying you too much money. Yeah. Then he goes off and signs with the Seahawks. Little foreshadowing here, but $15 million a year. Now you're paying Devontae Adams $23 million a year for a guy who is probably going to give you just about the same production, leadership, veteran savvy that Cooper Kupp could. Except Cooper Kupp, you know what you're getting with him. He's been on your team. You guys have coffee together.
Yeah.
Yep.
Like, why you got to break
You guys
that
have a
up?
podcast together.
Yeah, a podcast together. Like, come on. I just think that Cooper Kupp could do just about as much, but basically exactly the same thing that Devontae Adams could for cheaper money. So, like, why do you have to go and do this?
Yeah, I agree. It is kind of confusing.
Why you got to break up the family?
I know. Come on. All right, moving on to the San Francisco 49ers. They signed quarterback Mac Jones, and they are re-signing fullback Kyle Juszczyk. I always call him Juice. I don't know his real name. Juszczyk. And they also signed wide receiver Demarcus Robinson and signed tight end Luke Farrell. And they're signing safety Richie Grant, and they're signing safety Jason Pinnock.
Yeah, they didn't do a whole lot here, so
No.
I'm going to talk briefly about what
They got rid of a
happened
bunch
to
of guys.
them.
Yeah.
They lost so many pieces from free agents. Dre Greenlaw, Bufwanga,
Yep.
Debo Samuel,
Debo Samuel.
Yeah.
Keep me going here.
Elijah
Come on.
Mitchell,
Yeah.
There we go.
Aaron Banks,
There we go.
Yeah.
Jordan Mason.
Elijah
Jordan
Mitchell.
Mason. Yeah.
Elijah Mitchell.
I think that's it.
Josh Dobbs was there.
Josh Dobbs was there.
He was there.
Yeah.
Oh, it's Charvarius Ward.
Oh,
Damn.
Did you say Hufanga already? Yeah. You did.
Javon,
Yeah.
Kinlaw was gone the year before.
Still.
Oh, Hargrave.
Yeah,
Har-
Javon
yeah.
Hargrave.
Jeez.
The downfall.
That's really bad.
Possibly.
this team has just about nobody anymore.
Clearing money to sign Brock Purdy, I guess.
Yeah. And Mac Jones. I'll talk about Mac Jones because there were rumors whenever Mac Jones was drafted that he was the guy who the 49ers wanted to take at number 3 instead of Trey
Yeah,
Lance.
that's
But
right.
then came out, draft night, number 3 came up, and they drafted Trey Lance, and we all know how that turned out. But now he's got a second chance with Mac Jones. If the shit hits the fan with Brock Purdy, which I don't envision that happening,
No.
he's been a very good quarterback for them. At least he brought in Mac Jones just
Yeah.
for old time's sake. Like
Yeah.
coaches get so stuck on, which I do too. I get stuck on guys that even if they have sucked so far in the NFL, but I still believe in them. I trust in my scouting that I had to know that I think that they are good players, so I believe in them. So I think that's what happened here with this Mac Jones signing.
Yeah, we talked about all those guys they're losing. I like that they have at least brought back Kyle Juszczyk. He does so much for that team, and he can literally do just about anything for that team. So to bring back him, who's been there for a long time, for pretty cheap money, 2-year, $8 million, I think he's a good piece to keep around. He just knows the building and knows the guys and knows the system incredibly well.
Yeah, he was asked to take a pay cut, and I saw a rumor that the Steelers were in the running for him, and I was like, that would have been awesome. Juszczyk on the Steelers.
That would have been sweet, yeah.
Sick. I did it for the Cardinals. I'm going to do it for the Niners, too. Here's some of their starters now that they've lost all these pieces.
Okay.
We got Jordan Elliott,
All right.
Evan Anderson, D. Winters, Trey Brown,
Brian.
Malik Mustafa, Renardo Green. That's it. I mean, we got Nick Bosa and Diamador Lenoir.
Yeah.
And Fred Warner.
Yeah.
Okay,
Aside
so we're
from that-
good. Yeah, you're
You got the
good.
core then. At least
Yeah.
you got a solid guy at each position.
But still, man,
yeah.
that's rough.
Yeah,
All
it's a bad time to be a Niners fan, that's for sure. Then we
I
got
like that they are getting younger, though.
Yeah.
Like I said, this is what I want the Saints to do. Get younger.
yeah.
Money off the books.
Yeah.
Then starting on the O line, we got Trent Williams,
Yeah.
Okay.
Old Head, Ben Barch, Jake Brendel,
Oh, yep.
Dominic Pooney,
Okay, yeah.
and
rookie last
Colton
year.
McKivitz.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. The offensive line wasn't very good last year, and then you lost Aaron Banks, your best guard, and now it's.
This team is no longer in Super Bowl form.
No.
This team is in fighting for 500 form.
Yeah.
Yep. That'll be interesting to watch their draft coming up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on to Seattle. The Seattle Seahawks, they signed quarterback Sam Darnold to a 3-year, $100.5 million deal with $55 million guaranteed and $37.5 million in year one per Rappaport. Like Kian said earlier, they also signed wide receiver Cooper Kupp to a 3-year, $45 million deal per Mike Garafolo and Tom Pelissero and Elon Rappaport. And they also signed wide receiver MVS Marquez Valdez-Scantling to a 1-year contract, and they signed edge DeMarcus Lawrence to a 3-year deal worth up to $42 million with $18 million guaranteed per Rappaport, Pelissero, and Garafolo. And they re-signed defensive lineman Jaron Reed, and they re-signed linebacker Ernest Jones to a 3-year, $33 million deal with $15 million guaranteed per Ian Rappaport.
This Cooper Kupp deal is crazy.
Yeah.
31 years old, and he gets a 3-year contract.
Yep.
I don't love Cooper Kupp going here. They already have Jackson Smith and Jigba,
Yep.
who's kind of the route runner, working underneath type. I think they need to get a bigger body like DK Metcalf to bring him in again. because it worked well last year, and I think it would work well again this year. But Cooper Kupp, it's interesting to see. It's going to be interesting to see how Sam Darnold can utilize these weapons, and see if he's really a quarterback that can do it himself, or if he was relying on Kevin O'Connell.
Yeah. I think it's big to bring in, obviously, Sam Darnold and Cooper Kupp, but I think it's pretty big to bring in edge DeMarcus Lawrence, who's been a staple down there in Dallas, but obviously he can't win down there, according to him. So
Love that.
Yeah.
Let me read the beef. 'Cause
Please.
That's what I was just about to talk about, too.
So awesome.
Here's the quotes. DeMarcus Lawrence said, "Dallas is my home, but I know for sure I'm not going to win a Super Bowl there." Then Micah Parsons, of course, chirped back on X. He said, "This what rejection and envy look like. This some clown shit." And then DeMarcus Lawrence then clapped back. He said, "Calling me a clown won't change the fact that I told the truth. Maybe if you spend less time tweeting and more time winning, I wouldn't have left."
Oh, my goodness.
I'm a DeMarcus Lawrence fan now.
Oh, it's so good.
It's hilarious.
The interview where he said that first quote was so funny because I watched. He was like talking to a beat writer or something. I don't know who it was, but yeah, it's like he was talking like that. He's like, "Yeah, but obviously I can't win there." And then it like takes a second, and he just like kind of laughs. He's like, "Oh, I probably just didn't mean to say that out loud," but he just said it, telling the truth, and it was awesome. So I think he's a big piece that'll help on that Seattle defense. And I mean, it's always good to have good edge rushers pretty much anywhere you are.
Yeah, and I'll finish this off kind of with a funny way. Basically, Sam Darnold isn't going to be in the MVP running this year because MVS is there.
That's true.
That's what MVS does.
MVS is due for about 15 touchdowns.
Yeah, he's due for 15 touchdowns.
20
and
catches.
Basically, whichever quarterback he plays with is going to have a great season. He's played with Patrick Mahomes. He's played with Josh Allen.
Yeah.
He's played with Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah.
So this guy, wherever he goes, the quarterback is right in the MVP running. He's going to have a great season. So mark my words. There you have it. Sam Darnold.
MVP.
MVP.
All right, that wraps it up. All of that free agency review. Lots of moves being made, and lots of NFL draft foreplay. Just like Carson mentioned,
right.
we like it. So we appreciate you guys listening. Let us know about what free agents you guys like, hate, whatever. But lots of big moves being made, lots of big money being thrown around. It's NFL free agency is always incredibly exciting. So we hope you guys enjoyed the episode. Thank you guys for watching. And
wide receivers next week.
Yep, wide receiver
NFL
rankings.
draft wide receivers.
Yep, and then more to come after that. So thank you guys for watching. Tune back in for those episodes, and we will see you then.